22 years ago, the Bianconeri and the Rossoneri were playing a final of Champions League. Two teams full of stars, two teams that were there, on top of the world watching everyone, from top to bottom. A lot have happened since that night. Too much have happened since that night. Juventus, 11 Scudetti. 2 times in the final of Champions League and other cups. Unfortunately, these finals, we lost them. Milan, 3 Scudetti. And 2 times in the final of Champions League. 1 they lost, 1 they won in 2007. With some exceptions, Milan, they never came back to their old glory days. Juventus instead, they were sent to hell. They came back, they dominated, they owned, they maybe destroyed Serie A for a long decade. And then, at the moment, we fell again. This evening, these two teams are not playing a final of Champions League. They are facing each other for a ticket to participate to the next edition of the Cup with the big ears, to avoid probably a financial collapse. Both teams, they started a new project with new managers this summer, with promises to their tifosi. At the moment, Milan, they already changed their project in the meanwhile. Fonseca out, Conceição in. Juventus didn't change at the moment. They continue to believe in Thiago Motta and the investment that they did this summer, even if they understood that probably the investment were not always the correct ones. And in this winter mercato, they are trying to find solutions to avoid, indeed, that financial collapse, to go for that ticket for the Champions League. Today is an important game. Today, for both teams, it is a must-win game. Ciao Juventini of the world, my name is Giuseppe, welcome back on the channel, I hope you are all doing well. We start with the basics, maximum of likes today. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you didn't yet. And of course, after this video, I give you a beautiful meeting here on the channel for the pre-game, for the watch-along and for the post-game of Juventus-Milan. We already played twice against Milan. We played, unfortunately, an extremely boring game in Serie A, Milan-Juve in San Siro at 0-0. Then we played another game in Riyadh that was much more spectacular. Unfortunately, that was the game that we lost. Today, Juventus must win. But attenzione, Corriere dello Sport are opening immediately with a really good title, honestly. Guillotina, La Guillotina, which means La Guillotine, the guillotine. You know it, huh? If you go back to the French Revolution, you will remember what La Guillotine means. Because it's true. The one that is losing today probably goes under the guillotine. What a disaster. The squad list. Well, ragazzi, I give you immediately the bomba. KOLO MUANI will not be there. Until midnight, they really tried. They were even hoping that this morning things could be solved. Things are not solved administratively. Yesterday, I made a video about it where I explain you all the things that happened in the KOLO MUANI case. It's a total disaster. So KOLO MUANI will not be there. Dusan Vlahovic will be there. Conceição will not be there. Carlos Alberto or Alberto Costa will be there today, but not KOLO MUANI, which is unfortunately a big disaster because from inside news, I can tell you that if KOLO MUANI was available, he would have started the game, not entered the game, he would have started the game of today. He was a starter in Juventus-Milan. Not for the 90 minutes, of course, of the game, because we recuperated Vlahovic. He would have entered in the second half, but KOLO MUANI would have started. They believed in it until the last moment. Juventus was in a rush to let him come in that day off of Juve post 1-1 against Atalanta. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. It didn't happen because of Juve? No, absolutely not. We can blame a lot of things to Cristiano Giuntoli, to Thiago Motta, to the management. We can blame a lot of things to Juventus as a whole, but not that one. And L'Equipe, French biggest sport page, is today opening their inside of internet with that big one. L'incroyable imbroglio KOLO MUANI. The huge big mess KOLO MUANI. With mess said and written in Italian. Why? Because they are blaming and pointing out a total disaster managed situation by Paris Saint-Germain. Not that much by Juventus. It is a disaster. Now I have a good news, too late unfortunately, but the good news is that on Monday, KOLO MUANI should be announced as a Juventus player being ready for the next game of Serie A. Not for the game of Bruges, because we know it. The new players cannot play for the next 2 games of the group stage of Champions League. They could possibly be into that list for the next one. Why am I telling you that it's a huge big pity? Because KOLO MUANI would have started today. Vlahovic is recuperated. Vlahovic would have rested in his minute, coming back in the second half probably for a few minutes just to feel a bit the field. Well, that's not the possibility. Nico Gonzalez could have played on the right side, could have played on the left side, could have potentially even played as a number 10. Today, without KOLO MUANI, with Dusan Vlahovic that is not at 100%, we go towards something else. We go towards another predicted lineup that I will tell you in a second. But unfortunately, KOLO MUANI not being there is changing what Thiago Motta had in mind to surprise Milan, like Milan surprised in Riyadh with a new coach, with total new ideas. Ragazzi, no KOLO MUANI, Dusan on the bench. We go towards a lineup that is telling us that Di Gregorio will be in the goal. Yesterday, Thiago Motta in press conference told us that Perin would not participate to the game. He has been called up. Is he feeling better in case of need? Hopefully not. Who will enter? Perin or Pinsoglio? Pay attention, but there is no third goalkeeper called up instead of Perin. Perin is on the bench. So Di Gregorio starts without any doubt. And here we go towards a Cambiaso that starts the game, that will play the game, as announced yesterday by Thiago Motta in press conference. Cambiaso on the right side instead of Savona. Gatti, Kalulu, and Weston McKennie on the left. Locatelli, Thuram in front of the defense. Yildiz again for the fourth game in a row on that right side, while Conceição is missing. Koopmeiners as a number 10 on paper at least. Bangula that finds back a starting pot with his number 51 on the left side with Nico Gonzalez on top. A lot of absences, of course. We know all of the Juve ones. For Milan, a lot of them as well. Morata will not be there because he is suspended, but on top of that, Florenzi, Chukwueze, Loftus-Cheek, Thiaw, and Pulisic. So a lot of players that are missing. Pay attention for Fofana that is at risk of another yellow card and being suspended for the next game, but we don't care about that. When we see the lineups, of course, there is a name that is there, appealing, that we are watching, and that we don't understand what will happen with the future. Well, Tuttosport is describing it. Cambiaso, Milan, and the City. And we know a bit what they are referring to, but indeed, Cambiaso, Milan, and the City, because Milan, in the home Allianz Stadium, could potentially be the last game of Andrea Cambiaso as a Bianconero before becoming potentially a citizen. Could it be that we will play the next game of Champions League, that is, will be played on Tuesday? Could be, but in the Allianz Stadium could possibly be the last one of Andrea Cambiaso, where City in the next coming hours, in the next coming days, should come with their first offer around 60-65 million euro, while Juventus is asking for 80 million euro. Cambiaso will play that game. He received the trust from the coach. He received the trust of the management that says, guy, as long as things are not 100% done, you are a Juve player and we believe in you and we trust in you. So I'm expecting also a big performance of Andrea Cambiaso today, but a game that is probably a doubt. Hopefully he will not have these shaky legs of the last game in the Allianz Stadium, which is not always an easy one. Then, if things are changing in the meanwhile, let's see. Things that are changing, that Cambiaso could potentially stay, you never know, or that because of the sale of Cambiaso, Juventus is doing a total revolution into the defense. We know it, the names are the usual ones. Tomori, that after Juve Milan, Juventus will go back and sit at the table, this time not to speak about a game, but to speak about calciomercato with the rossoneri, asking them, we want the player now. To go for the player, we are even ready to anticipate the permanent signing of Kalulu, giving you that money that you were expecting in the summer. You give it again a loan for Tomori, 5 million immediately for the remaining part of the season. 25, we go to an option with some things that are making it an obligation. The player apparently wants to stay at Milan. If Juventus arrive at that this 30 million euro for Milan, Milan could potentially speak again with Tomori, telling him, you can decide. We are happy with the money. If you want to stay, you stay. If not, you leave. Guys, I don't really believe in it. I told you because Pavlovic will leave. I already told you that Ciao is injured. It would be really totally madness for Milan to let Tomori leave after Kalulu. But guys, you never know in life. Otherwise, what are the other names? It's always the usual ones. We have Hansko. We have Danso, we have a few players there on the list. Let's see. At the moment, according to Tuttosport, the priority, the most easiest one to go for immediately now in the next community day is Tomori, Fikayo. Let's see if it will happen. I'm really curious. Now, if Cambiaso leaves, it's not only him that we need to replace, or at least it's not only the center back that we need to replace, but we also need to replace the fullbacks. And Dorgu is there on top of that list. Dorgu, that reading today, Tuttosport, well, the value, the request of Lecce is already going towards 40 million euro. It's huge. But I told you, if Cristiano Giuntoli has not already sealed a deal, of course, all the players that you will knock at the door of their club, well, the price will suddenly increase, because we know it, and this is calciomercato. If they know that you have money, well, they will request more money. What are the other players on that list to potentially replace Andrea Cambiaso? We have Jorel Hato from Ajax, we have Amar Dedic from Salzburg, Ben Chilwell from Chelsea, Cristiano Biraghi from Fiorentina. Please no, stop doing deals with Fiorentina. And there is also that name, Miguel Gutierrez from Girona. So a lot of players are there potentially to replace Andrea Cambiaso. A total new defense. Kalulu may be going back on the right side, maybe playing as a center back, maybe Kalulu playing still at the left of the center back. Let's see what will happen about a total revolution. Now, if we go back towards how to have the ticket to play the Champions League, how to enter the top 4, but especially how to beat Milan. One thing is sure, observing that new Milan of Conceição, now we have a bit of material that we can study. It's a team that is extremely aggressive, that loves to go extremely high on the pitch with all their defensive line, a 4-man defense that goes extremely high, being extremely compact with that midfield. And that's actually the opportunity that we saw against Inter in the Supercoppa final, that we saw in the last game against Cagliari, a team that if you're able with the ball to go high, vertical, finding these spaces with the Nico Gonzalez, for example, or what we tried against Atalanta a few times, could be extremely important to beat that Milan. It's important today, Serie A, not only because of Juve Milan, because right after Juve Milan, there will be another game, Napoli against Atalanta. Another huge, big game that will be played in Bergamo, so it's Atalanta-Napoli, that will tell us who can really contend for that Scudetto. Will it be Napoli that will run? Will it be Atalanta that will go back into that run for the 3 first spot? Or is it actually the day of Inter? Because of course, if there is a draw there, if there is another draw between Juve and Milan, Inter can potentially, playing tomorrow against Empoli, already be virtually the champion of Italy, which have been a real disaster, because you know it. When Juventus is not doing well, the worst thing for a Juventino on top of their own team is seeing the Nerazzurri celebrating. It's early, championship is really long, but today can be an important game. Guys, if you didn't yet, please put a maximum of like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Grazie, forza, Juve.